What does your ex really feel about you after the breakup? It's a common question full of uncertainty, but the answer may be closer than you think. Carl Jung, the renowned psychologist, proposed that the unconscious mind holds many of our deepest feelings and desires, including those related to love and relationship breakups. The unconscious is a part of our psyche that influences our actions, often without our awareness. When it comes to a breakup, what we see on the surface might not reflect the true emotions someone still feels. Sometimes, even after an apparent ending, feelings remain alive in the unconscious, manifesting in unexpected ways. In this video, we'll explore the signs that your ex still feels something for you, according to Carl Jung's theory. We'll take a journey to understand how the unconscious can reveal deep feelings that aren't so obvious in your ex's conscious behavior. If you want to learn more about how to understand these deep signs, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos on how to transform your love life. One of the first signs that your ex still feels something for you is unexpected contact. It could be a message sent without a clear reason, a phone call out of the blue, or even him showing up in places you frequent without a plausible explanation. These gestures might seem like coincidences, but according to Carl Jung, there's a much deeper explanation in the unconscious. The human being often seeks to reconnect with what they've lost, even without realizing it. Your ex's unconscious may be trying, in some way, to restore or relive the emotional connection that existed between you. Jung talked about the importance of the unconscious in our daily lives and how it plays a fundamental role in the decisions we make, even when we think we're in control. When a person cannot fully detach from another, they end up seeking ways to reestablish that bond, often without realizing it. The fact that your ex reaches out, whether consciously or not, could be an attempt to once again feel the energy they had when they were with you. The conscious mind may try to justify the gesture in practical or rational terms, but the unconscious is much more honest with emotions, often manifesting unresolved desires that a person simply cannot erase. This kind of behavior could also be an attempt to understand what really happened in the relationship. The unconscious, as Jung argues, seeks to integrate parts of the psyche that have been rejected or ignored, and many times, by reaching out to someone with whom there was an emotional bond, it attempts to make sense of everything that was experienced. Reconnecting with the person could be a way of integrating the good and bad parts of the relationship, offering your ex the chance to resolve pending feelings. Even if they don't intend to get back together, the simple act of contacting you could be the unconscious trying to find that resolution. If you notice your ex reaching out unexpectedly, reflect on what this behavior really means. It's not just a simple action or a fleeting impulse. There's depth behind it that perhaps even he doesn't fully understand. The fact that your ex seeks this contact could be a reflection of unresolved feelings and unexpressed desires, an echo of something they can't easily erase. This contact might even be an opportunity for him to confront what he truly feels and, perhaps, try to free himself from this energy, even if not consciously. However, it's important to remember that just because your ex reaches out doesn't necessarily mean he wants to get back together. Often, it's a way of coping with the absence or an attempt to resolve internal issues that were never fully worked through. It's crucial to recognize that these signs, while significant, are only part of a bigger picture. What really matters is how you choose to handle these manifestations, whether you want to explore them or move on. The unexpected contact, for Jung, is not just an action. It's a reflection of what's being processed in the unconscious, something that could lead to transformation or emotional release, depending on how you and your ex choose to act on it. When an ex still talks about you, either directly or indirectly, what does it really reveal? For Carl Jung, this could be a reflection of the projection of the unconscious. He believed that when something is unresolved internally, people tend to project these feelings or aspects of themselves onto others. So, when your ex talks about you, they may be projecting parts of their own psyche that they haven't been able to integrate or accept, especially aspects of their shadow. This projection happens when they mention your name or share memories of past moments with a level of intensity that might be unsettling. What's behind this? For Jung, the unconscious has no clear boundaries between what is real and what is projected. So, the way your ex talks about you may reflect how they still perceive you, but also how they're dealing with their own emotional history. These memories and words aren't just about what you lived together. but about what they still haven't been able to digest or accept within themselves. The unconscious has a curious way of revealing unresolved feelings. When your ex talks about you, it could be an attempt to restore what they still feel, but also to resolve something that's stuck in their psyche. Jung stated that when we project our own feelings onto another person, we're trying to externalize what's inside of us, often without realizing it. So, the fact that your ex talks about you emotionally, with nostalgia, or even with bitterness, could be an indication that they're projecting their own unresolved conflicts onto the relationship, not necessarily seeing you the way you really are. Furthermore, the projection of the unconscious can also manifest in the way your ex shares their perceptions of the relationship with others. They may talk about you with friends or even family in a way that feels excessive or emotionally charged. This is a reflection of how they're internalizing and processing the breakup, something that might be completely out of their conscious control. What this tells us is that, even though your ex might try to move on, the projections of the unconscious can be a way of keeping them tethered to the past. It's important to observe how your ex talks about you, but also reflect on the impact it has on you. What they project is not just an expression of their feelings, but an opportunity for you to understand more about what was lived in the relationship and how you can use it for your own growth. The fact that they continue to project unresolved aspects of their psyche onto you shows that, while they haven't fully completed their mourning or healing process, it directly affects the dynamic between the two of you. This is a clear sign that what they feel hasn't been fully processed, and it may be something they need to work through, both for their own evolution and for their inner peace. Jealousy is often seen as an instinctive reaction, but when it arises after the end of a relationship, it can be a deep sign that your ex still has unresolved feelings for you. While possessiveness is not a healthy trait, jealousy itself can indicate that love and desire still exist in a latent form. Carl Jung helps us understand this phenomenon by exploring how emotions are often connected to the unconscious and the shadow, that part of the psyche that frequently hides repressed or unrecognized feelings. When your ex feels jealous, it could be a reflection of the emotional attachment that still exists, even if he tries to rationalize and deny this feeling. Jung believed that emotions that are not integrated in a healthy way can manifest in impulsive or even destructive behaviors. Jealousy can be seen as an unconscious attempt to affirm a connection, something he feels he lost but still desires to maintain. It's not just a reaction to your social life or new relationships, but also an attempt to control or reintegrate what he considers his. On the other hand, jealousy can also be related to possessiveness. When love is mixed with the desire to control the other, it becomes a more problematic behavior. Jung saw possessiveness as something rooted in a person's shadow, something projected onto the other to fill an internal void. When your ex shows jealousy, especially toward new people who enter your life, it can be an expression of his difficulty in dealing with loss and separation. In this case, jealousy is not just about you, but about how he handles his own insecurity and fear of being left behind. It's important to reflect on the nature of your ex's jealousy. He may be projecting his own pain and fear of loss onto you. For Jung, the shadow consists of those feelings and desires we can't or don't want to integrate. Jealousy could be a manifestation of this shadow, trying to defend against feelings of inadequacy or insecurity. This behavior, therefore, is a way for his unconscious to try to assert control over something that was lost. But instead of dealing with it in a healthy way, he projects his feelings onto you, without fully understanding what he's doing. Finally, jealousy could be a sign that your ex has not moved on and that there are unresolved emotional issues. The unconscious, in its attempt to integrate these feelings and heal wounds, often manifests through intense reactions such as jealousy. In this case, it's important to observe how you deal with this and how it impacts your own healing journey. Recognizing jealousy as a reflection of unprocessed feelings is the first step in understanding that your ex is still stuck on what hasn't been resolved between you. This is a crucial moment to assess whether you want to revisit the past or move forward based on how each of you handles what was experienced. Silence after the end of a relationship can be one of the most confusing yet revealing signs that your ex still has something to process. While many people see silence as the definitive end, Carl Jung invites us to look into the unconscious and understand that, often, silence is a more powerful form of communication than words. For Jung, the unconscious often tries to process emotions in ways that the conscious mind cannot comprehend, and silence can be one of these attempts at internal resolution. When your ex chooses silence, it could be that they are dealing with an emotional turmoil that hasn't been resolved. Silence can be a way to avoid confronting painful feelings, but it can also be an attempt to integrate what's left from the relationship. Jung believed that the unconscious deals with feelings indirectly, and when the conscious mind cannot handle the pain, the unconscious quietly does its work, waiting for the person to eventually address what has been left unsaid. This silence can be a reflection of an internal healing process or an attempt to accept the end of the relationship, but it doesn't mean that the person has forgotten or moved on from the relationship. On the other hand, late apologies also hold significant meaning. Often, an ex may return after a period of silence to apologize, perhaps for something that wasn't said or done during the relationship. Jung suggested that late apologies could be an attempt by the unconscious to integrate unresolved parts, especially the shadow. The shadow consists of all the aspects of our psyche that we refuse to accept or ignore, and the apology may be a way of dealing with those shadowy aspects that were left unresolved during the relationship. The person is not just apologizing for what happened, but often trying to understand what they didn't fully comprehend about their own behavior or about the relationship as a whole. This kind of behavior is often a reflection of the difficulty of accepting separation and loss. Silence can be a defense mechanism, a way of denying the pain and avoiding confrontation with their own feelings. When late apologies arise after this period of silence, they can be an attempt to restore inner peace and close the open cycle. However, it's important to observe that apologies do not necessarily mean the person is willing to rekindle the relationship. Often, the apology is more about the internal healing process than about trying to fix what happened between you two. Ultimately, silence or late apologies are signs that your ex is still dealing with complex emotions and unresolved feelings. While these signs can be confusing, it's essential to understand that, for Jung, these reactions are not just conscious responses but manifestations of a deep psychological process. If you notice silence or late apologies, it may be a sign that your ex is still stuck on what was unresolved and is trying to deal with unprocessed feelings. This is a moment for reflection to assess what you truly want: to stay in the cycle of attempting to resolve something from the past or to move forward in search of your own healing and emotional growth. The way your ex reacts to your happiness can be one of the most revealing signs of unresolved feelings. When someone you shared a relationship with feels jealousy, anger, or even envy when they see you move on and find happiness, it can be a sign that they still carry deep emotions that haven't been resolved. Carl Jung helps us understand this phenomenon by connecting it to the idea of the ego and the shadow. For Jung, the ego is related to what we consider our conscious identity, while the shadow contains the parts of the psyche we reject or don't accept. The way your ex reacts to your happiness can be a direct reflection of this internal dynamic between the ego and the shadow. When your ex shows anger or dissatisfaction at seeing you happy, especially if they try to somehow hinder or discredit your happiness, it may be an unconscious attempt to protect their own ego. What is often projected is the insecurity or unresolved pain they feel about the separation. For them, seeing you happy can somehow challenge the perception they have of themselves or the relationship you shared. The shadow, manifesting this way, is trying to deal with a wounded ego and, as a result, may show up in feelings of anger or resentment, which often don't have a logical explanation but are deeply rooted in their unconscious. On the other hand, a positive reaction from your ex to your happiness can be a sign of growth and acceptance. If they genuinely want to see you well and happy, without resentment or jealousy, it may indicate that over time, they've been able to integrate the pain of the breakup and reached a place of inner peace. Jung believed that true psychological evolution occurs when we are able to integrate our shadow and accept the totality of our experience, including losses and the end of cycles. When this happens, they can, in a genuine way, feel happy for your happiness, without it threatening their own identity or ego. However, if they react negatively with anger or disdain, it's important to recognize that this isn't about you. It's about them. What they are showing is that they haven't yet gotten over the end of the relationship and, on some level, are still attached to what was lived and the pain of the past. For Jung, the shadow is something that refuses to be integrated, and as long as it remains repressed, unresolved emotions will manifest in harmful behaviors. Your ex's behavior, therefore, is a direct reflection of how they are dealing with their own pain and insecurity. This may be a sign that they are still holding on to feelings of possession or emotional attachment, which need to be worked through before they can free themselves and move on. Finally, the way your ex reacts to your happiness is an opportunity for reflection on what is happening internally, both for them and for you. For Jung, our relationship with others always reflects something in our psyche. If they are still reacting negatively to your happiness, it's important that you use this awareness as a way to evaluate what you want for your own emotional growth. It also serves as an indication that they may still need time to work through their own internal issues and are not ready to fully release what was lived between you. In this case, it's crucial to give space for both of you to heal and eventually move forward on your respective journeys of self-discovery.